Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another episode of Living Hope, our ongoing journey exploring the world of those with pancreatic cancer, telling the real life stories of people really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it, really deal with it on a daily basis. With our resident expert on this subject. I don't know if you wanted to be an expert on that subject, but it's something Roberta Luna knows well, 20 plus year survivor. What are you, 21 now?
22. I'm
22.
22.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. I'm almost 23, but we're at 22 right now, so thank you.
Well, the problem that we always talk about is how do people deal with pancreatic cancer. Today and last week, we were talking about how do the people around them, the caregivers, deal with this situation, because that's the forgotten story here. Having been a caregiver of somebody not with pancreatic cancer, but with Parkinson's and dementia and other things, the caregivers, you can't stop and take care of yourself. There's a problem here. There's an emergency.
Yeah, you don't have time. You want to do everything you can for the person you're taking care of, and being on both sides of the fence as the caregiver and the patient. To me, the caregiver is the harder of the two to do. So I'm very thrilled to have Andrea O'Donnell back with us. She's a certified nutritional therapy practitioner and breathwork facilitator. And today we're going to kind of focus on a previous conversation we had about taking care of caregivers and exploring essential self-care practices they can help them stay healthy, resilient, and balanced as they support not only their loved one but themselves, and to help get through the holidays, because it's very difficult. So thank you, Andrea, for coming back. We're going to have to give you some kind of award or some kind of a pass or something because we just really enjoy talking, because it's an important subject, nutrition, and especially during treatment and after. How do we get the proper nutrition and still continue with, when you're not feeling well, to eat and whatnot? So thank you for coming back and talking with us again. Like I said, it's always very interesting, and I know we never get through everything we want, but maybe that's a good thing. It opens it up to more episodes, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back on. I really enjoy talking to you.
Well, good. Thank you. And like I said, we wanted to, divulge a lot about the caregivers, because they're very important. Without them, I mean, I don't know what I would have done, without my husband and my boys, being my caregiver. And, even my mom coming out and being diagnosed when I was doing treatment and her being sick, we were both trying to take care of each other, which, mother and daughters, right? There's nobody takes care of you like your mom when you're sick. So, but yeah, being, like I said before, being a caregiver to me was much, much more difficult. So if you want to just, kind of dive in a little bit what we were talking about before we came on air, I think that would be a great place to start.
Help me if I miss anything, but we were just talking about, again, first off, the importance of caregiving and how most caregivers are selfless. They don't take time for themselves because, of course, they're focused on their loved one and trying to help them feel better. Short term, that's okay. Long term, it can create a lot of issues. We were talking about how stress is a big part of that, and making sure that you're taking time for yourself, doing breath work, make sure that you're eating well. So we were kind of going off on that last time, but I know we ran out of time into how to really support caregivers when they're helping a loved one, and how to put that oxygen mask on first, because what I always like to say.
Yeah, it's like when you're flying, that's what they tell you to do first, right? Mm-hmm. Even though your first instinct is probably to give it to your child or somebody else. Excuse me, that you have to put it on yourself first so you don't pass out. So what are some great tips for some caregivers starting out and what they can do for themselves? I know it is difficult because you're wanting to take care of your parent or your child or whatever the situation might be as the patient. So what are some things that they can do?
Well, I think the first and foremost is, as much as possible, understanding the situation and setting up some kind of routine, bringing in other support, not putting all the pressure on yourself. Sometimes you don't have any other option, and it's maybe your only child or whatever it is, and that's it. But still bringing in outside support as much as possible. Meal trains, from your church or from a community group. Eliciting help from the outside, because it's a lot physically and it's a lot mentally. Other things is, when I say putting the oxygen mask on first, You wake up and immediately you're thinking about your loved one. For me, it was my mom. She had pancreatic cancer, and it was kind of every second of the day I was thinking of her. I was scared. There's so many emotions and feelings that going on. And I found I remember this specifically, but the one thing that helped me so much was taking a walk. If they're at home, bringing somebody in by their bedside, or if they're well enough, taking a 10-minute walk around the neighborhood, getting some fresh air, remembering to eat. And I think we were talking about this last time about the eating and the vending machines and all that, but it sounds crazy, but a lot of times we just reach for something quick, a Twix bar, a bag of chips. But again, we're not fueling ourselves, so we are going to burn out. So make sure, ordering proper meal delivery, meal plan, going to the grocery store and getting those prepped veggies, like the baby carrots and hummus, still making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because the bag of chips and the candy is only going to give you a little bit of energy. And so your blood sugar is going to spike, and then it's going to crash even more. That's not going to help anyone. What happens? We get agitated, hangry, irritated, want to sleep. None of these things are going to help any of us. So little snacks, going for a walk are simple tips, and sleep. Again, something that we don't do. I remember with my mom, I didn't sleep very much. I was constantly up just in case she needed something, but we need to, again, elicit that support team.
How important is the timing of meals so that you can maintain the energy and balance this, your sugar throughout the day?
That's a great question. Yeah, I would say there's some of it is bio individual, but we always encourage people, most important meal of the day is breakfast. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you want to remember it easy, the word breakfast says it for you. Break fast. It is designed for a reason, to give us that energy for the day, and having something. And again, I don't know how America did it, but we did it where breakfast is another dessert, right? It's sugary cereals, pancakes, waffles, syrup, you name it. But focusing on more healthy protein and fats, like you can make egg muffins ahead of time. That's not a muffin. It's eggs with bell pepper, onions into a little muffin cup. Starting out with breakfast, I think, is the most important thing that you can do. And then after that, if you can't or don't have time to do the full-blown sitting down lunch and dinner, then every few hours you want to add some fuel to your system, especially when we're under stress. That stress is going to rob essential nutrients like magnesium and B vitamins. So we want to make sure that we're replenishing and drinking water as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I was laughing earlier because Paul and I were just talking about breakfast being the most important meal of the day. So,
Yeah.
so it's funny that you happen to say that as well. What happens? Now, we talked a little bit about gut health.
Mhm.
So, what happens, or can you explain what gut health is and how it impacts our overall well-being?
So Hippocrates, I think, said it the best, that all disease begins in the gut. Nowadays, they say that's about 99% true. So we're just going to go with, yep, he was right. 97% of our immune system lies in our gut. So gut health is really everything. And that begins with nourishing it with good whole foods, complex carbs, which are your fruits and your vegetables and your quinoa, lentils, beans, getting good source of fiber, because that fiber is food for a good bacteria. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, fiber feeds your friends. Oh, I just thought of that. That's really good. Okay. So fiber feeds your friends. So we want to have good bacteria in there, and we want to make sure that we're having good protein. So chicken, eggs, turkey, grass-fed beef, if you're able to, wild-caught salmon, so fish, halibut, all these different options for protein. You want to have good, healthy fat. Not all fat is created equal, but again, going back to the polyunsaturated fat. So the fish oils, fish, sardines, mackerels, avocado, olives, olive oil, nut butters. these are wonderful sources that are going to nourish your body and help feed your gut microbiome, is what they call it, to feed the good bacteria. So it starts with whole foods, but then there's other things that you can do.
Give us some more examples of those other things you can do as well, please.
For gut health,
Yes.
so making sure that you are, we call it a north to south digestion. It's interesting, but our digestion actually begins in the brain, not in the mouth, which most people think. So when we see food, think of food, smell food, we're immediately starting that salivary system. You know, when you think of a lemon, you start kind of like salivating, right? Same thing. So your brain's like, ooh, we're going to get some lemon right now. And it starts the digestive process. So taking time to sit down and have a meal. Now, again, when we're caregiving, we may not have that opportunity all the time. This is where I recommend eliciting, again, that team of support, but sitting down and eating for 20 minutes. The average American takes 11 minutes to eat their food. We like to inhale food. And what happens is when we're doing that, we're just, and it doesn't give our stomach enough time to break down that food. So then things can start fermenting, they become rancid, they putrefy, and that can create a lot of digestive issues. Another one that I love, which I call part of my power practices, is chewing your food. It sounds really, again, simple. You're like, okay, I thought there's going to be something more complicated. Literally taking 20 to 30 bites and chewing it. You want it an applesauce consistency. And I'll tell people, I'm like, you want to drink your food and chew your liquid, which kind of sounds weird. But when we have a smoothie, for example, we just drink it. Well, that our brain doesn't understand that that's food. And so it's not communicating with our stomach to say, hey, let's get some more acid in there. So as silly as it sounds, but if you have a smoothie in your mouth, kind of like almost like you're chewing it. And then with food, you really want to get it to the applesauce consistency. With my kids, we'll even have, games like who can chew it the longest, whatever you have to do to have fun with it, but really bringing in those practices. And it's very interesting because have you heard of the blue zones?
No.
So the blue zones, there's a really great documentary on Prime that talks about the healthiest, longest living people in the world. And one of the blue zones is in Okinawa, Japan. And they went and they've been studying them for years, like what gets this village or these group of people to live so long and be healthy and happy. And they have a saying called, and forgive me if I completely mess it up, but it's hara hachibu. And it means belly 80% full. And so again, going back to slowing down, slowing when we're eating, really being mindful, we call mindful eating, really can help with gut health. It's pretty remarkable when I get my clients to slow down and start chewing. They're like, oh, the bloating is gone. Oh, the gas is not there as much, or the indigestion is gone.
Yeah, I took one of your sessions and we actually talked about this because it was, not realizing, it seems like we're always in a hurry. So yeah, we eat really, really quickly. So I actually did set the timer and tried to go for the 20 minutes. It took me a little bit of time, but we finally did get there, and to actually, like you say, chew the food, chew it up, and really, then you kind of also enjoy the taste of it as well. You're not just swallowing it and you're getting it. But I did notice that, the discomfort that I was having after meals changed. So I wasn't, even though, because I'm not really great about taking my enzymes anyway, but it didn't miss it because I was changing the way I ate. And the reason I think this is important is because when you're not, that makes you not feel well, when you're eating quickly and you're not digesting the food and whatnot. So then you're having your own issues, and then to try to take care of somebody, that's having a problem, and you're not feeling up to it, it makes it a lot different. So even though it sounds like I don't have time to take 20 minutes to eat, make the time, because you will notice the difference, and it does help. So thank you for that. That was really a big session that was really helpful that we did.
Good, and I'm glad it helped you as well to feel better. Yeah, it's so important, but like 20 minutes, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but we I don't know, I feel like we have somehow lost the meal time. I don't want to call it, maybe it's a privilege, where we used to sit down and have a meal. Everybody did, whether even, when they're out. My dad is an electrician. He would be out and he would take his lunch and they would sit down and enjoy it. And now even that's rushed through, right? It's like, I don't have time to eat, yet we have to eat to live, right? And so we bypass it like it's not important, but it is important. It's
Yeah.
everything.
Or taking a lunch, but you're working through it. That's another.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Or doing something distracted, and um, I really hope that we can get back to that, enjoying meals, and sitting down. And it can be with friends and loved ones, but that community aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's something that we do miss because we're always in such a hurry. But getting back to caregivers, I know a lot of times people would ask, what can I do to help? And I know for me, I always feel like I have to do everything myself, so it's very hard for me to ask for help or to even let somebody help me. But what I'm learning along the way, and it's still taking me some time to accept it myself, is sometimes, especially with pancreatic cancer, we feel so helpless that we don't know what to do. What is there out there for us? So if somebody is offering, let me know what you need, take them up on that because that makes them feel good as well. And, a caregiver can be a variety of different ways. I mean, like you said, bringing in the meals or going the grocery shopping or taking care of bills or whatever. So, if you can delegate those duties to somebody who, is offering to help, let them help. And I'm great at giving the advice, but not always so good about following it. But I'm trying. I'm trying. So, and I know, the holidays are really difficult too when you're, a caregiver and when you're the patient as well. Do you have any helpful hints that maybe can help them, especially as the caregiver, get through it with their patient and providing maybe I don't want to call it diet, but nutrition that is going to help them feel better and to get the energy they need to help get through the time. Are there certain snacks or foods that are better than others as far as giving you that quick energy, like the Snickers bar is going to do?
Well, during the holidays especially, it's hard because we have this added pressure, from a society to be happy and joyful, and the music's going and getting gifts for people. And, there's just so much going on, which is wonderful, but it can also be an added stress for a lot of people, even if you're not caregiving. And so what often happens is, again, it's that nervous system. We're in this fight or flight, this stressed out state. It's so much easier to reach for something sweet, um, or something salty like chips, because it gives us that quick dopamine, right? It's that dopamine that's giving us that um, happiness, joy, motivation, for a split second. And that's what sugar does, is it triggers that. And so I see a lot of people, regardless, but especially caregivers, it's easy. Again, you go to the vending machine, you grab a Snickers and you're on your way, but that's not going to help. So what are some things that you can do? And, I always suggest dressing up your carbs is what I like to say. So if you're going to have, for example, a rice cake, rice cake is pretty easy. You can grab and go, adding a little bit of nut butter on there, like almond butter, for example. And you can put some bananas if you really want to get fancy, and cinnamon. Cinnamon's a great one because it helps to regulate your blood sugar. Or you can do some avocado on there with some deli meat. So again, you're dressing up the carbs with either fat or protein. And that fat or protein is really going to help stabilize your blood sugar and, more importantly, stabilize your energy. Because carbs, regardless of what it is going to convert to sugar or glucose, and that's going to spike your blood sugar, but it's going to bring it back down. It's quick fuel. But for caregivers, we need to be there and with it, and especially during the holidays, for hours on end sometimes, right? So bring in an apple with a hard-boiled egg. You can make a whole dozen hard-boiled eggs, ahead of time. Or an apple with some nuts. I love bringing like a little small snack bag of trail mix. So you can put some almonds and walnuts and Brazil nuts and macadamia nuts, and they all have wonderful nutrients that they're all great for. Um, you can do things like if you have to grab something like a Chomps bar, or one of those grass-fed meat sticks. They have chicken, beef, turkey. So that's just an option. Some people like string cheese and maybe an egg or a piece of fruit. So again, pairing. So we know fruit is a carb. So what can we pair it with to give us longer lasting energy? Are some really easy wins. You can do hummus. They sell at Costco and a lot of places little hummus packets that you can grab with, and you can put some baby carrots in a bag or cucumber or celery, whatever, and then just kind of take that with you. Or I love gluten-free crackers because a lot of them have some really good nutrients and seeds in them. Like Simple Mills is one of my favorite, and Mary's Gone crackers. So you can grab some of those. So there are options. It takes a little bit of prep, and you can even do it like on a Sunday if you have time. It's going to be a busy week, but then you just kind of grab and go. So there are options to do that if you don't have time to sit down for 20 minutes to have a meal.
I just had somebody send a question. It says many caregivers feel guilty about self-care. How can they overcome this? How can they overcome this mindset and prioritize themselves? Do you have any suggestions or hints on that?
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, my internet.
Many caregivers feel guilty about self-care. How can they overcome this mindset?
Well, I think, I'd say that's more than just caregiver. I would also say moms fit in that category. Women, fit into that category. A lot of people fit into that category of guilt. And I think it's really going back to that analogy of the oxygen mask and understanding that if we're not healthy, we can't take care of our loved ones. So it's not selfish to, if let's say you're treating somebody long term. I remember when we thought my mom was gonna live for many months, and we had family come over and they literally shoved me out of the house to go get a pedicure. Is a pedicure really necessary? No. But they're like, go do something where you're not thinking. That's the self-care, right? I had to get shoved out of the house to do that. And it was really nice. Breath work is a wonderful technique that you can do. Like I said, going for walks, taking some time and just sitting outside and getting some sunlight if you can and you're able to. But it's not selfish because you have to take care of yourself. If you think about it, like the caregiver thinks about it, if we're sick, if we get sick, right, because we're stressed, how much help are we? We're zero help, right? But if we're strong, we're healthy, we're able to do things to help them, then it helps them as much as it helps us. So I always go back to that analogy again, is you have to keep yourself going and keep yourself healthy so that you can then help the other person become healthy.
Yeah, especially if you're the only one really that person is depending on. You really got to be careful. Like I was an only child, so it was difficult, even though like I said, I did have the support of my husband and my sons, but still it's very difficult. You have to take care of yourself. Otherwise you're not going to be any good to your loved one. And it's funny that you mentioned breath work, because actually I did get another question came in. I guess they saw the first one that we did, but they want to know if you can demonstrate or explain a simple breath work that helps when somebody's feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely. So one of my favorite ones is called box breathing. I don't think we went over this last time, but I love it for its simplicity. Navy SEALs actually use this when they are in combat because it's so effective. And how it works, box breathing, some people call it square breathing, is you inhale for 4, and you go inhale through your nose if you can for 4, and you hold for 4, and then you exhale through the nose or the mouth gently for 4, and then you hold for 4. So how it look, it would go And what's really nice about that one is you are focusing on the counting and the doing, so your mind cannot focus on anything else. So you're constantly, I always encourage people, if they're able to, but even if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you can, close your eyes. But you can do this driving as well. Just inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. That is one of my absolute favorite ones to do.
Yeah, I learned that one through you, and I've used it a few times, like especially, when we're going to get like scans or certain tests, we have anxiety, excuse me, anxiety that we go through. And that really did help as you're laying there to get ready to go into the MRI machine, right? You do that, and it really did make a big difference. So I can really testify to that. And if anybody wants to try that, and I think Paul has a question.
I just want to say breathing is the one thing that I never think of doing when I'm stressed. Breathing, I find myself literally holding my breath, and you're forcing yourself through it. And so many times just to simply exhale and take a breath is like, oh my God, you can just feel the tension and the relief and everything. It's like, I don't know why we freeze up when we're frightened or scared or stressed or whatever.
Well, that's a really good point. It's because of our nervous system. So it's not something we're doing consciously. It's actually done subconsciously, because our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, has two main ventricles, let's call it. The parasympathetic, the rest and digest, and our sympathetic, which is our fight or flight or freeze. So it's interesting because we as a society have advanced so much, right? Our technology, our cell phones, computers, chat GPT, you name it. But our brain and our nervous system hasn't. It's still looking at things as if there is a bear or a saber-toothed tiger back in the day. So when something happens, it's seeing it as a threat. It can be a work email, it can be traffic, it can be caring for a loved one, it can be the holidays. There's so many things that will send the nervous system into this fight or flight. And so what happens is this blood, so we were talking about gut health earlier, the blood leaves the gut because it's like, I don't care about these organs right now. My job is to run from the bear, fight the bear, or freeze and pretend that the bear doesn't see me. And so what it does is the blood leaves these organs and it goes into our muscles so that we can run or fight or freeze. And that's what we call adrenaline. And that can only take us so far and so long. And so when we're not breathing, it's because we're literally practicing what we did many, many, many years ago. And it's so important. All of a sudden, once the whatever called the bear is gone, all of a sudden like, oh, and we can breathe again. Or a lot of us, we breathe very shallow. And then that hyperventilation, happens.
Exactly.
And so again, that's not good because the oxygen is not getting into the deep belly, which is what we need to learn and practice. That's why they call breathing as the lost art and science. We all have to breathe to live, and yet many of us are not doing it properly anymore because we are constantly running from the bear or freezing or fighting this bear. And it's very hard.
Well, we're fighting the clock here, so how do we get everybody in touch with you here?
So the best thing or the easiest thing is my website, risingrootsnutrition.com, and you can send me a message to get a hold, or if you want to learn more about my services, you can fill out the application, and I would love to connect with you.
And what kind of service do you give? Nutritional advice? Do you give one-on-one counseling via Zoom or something? What do you do? Any and all of that?
Any and all. No, so I'm a holistic nutritionist. So I don't just look at calories in, calories out. I don't just give people a meal plan and send them on their way. Why I'm saying that is because I really work with people who want to work on their holistic health. So whatever the symptom may be, low energy, cravings, trouble losing weight, stress, trouble sleeping, all these things are symptoms. And I look at the root cause, and I look at not just food, but we're looking at sleep, stress, movement, hydration, environmental toxins. So I work with people either one-on-one, or I also have my group coaching program, which is phenomenal. And it's a community of women over 40 that come together, and we share resources, support for women who are struggling with cravings and low energy and stress fat. So there's different ways to work with me.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Roberta.
And I can highly recommend that you get in touch with Andrea, because she'll really change your life. Like I said, just the simple things. And I'm not the best patient, but I've learned a lot, and it's taken me a while, but I'm getting there. So thank you for joining us, and we're happy to have you back, and maybe we can do this again because there's always something to talk about. But as we go today, as long as you speak my name, I shall live forever, as dedicated to Lynn Felder. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. As we take a deep breath, digest all that we've learned here again today here. Sometimes it's the simple things we just need to be reminded of. And we hope that this is one of them. Just simply tune in each and every time to hear more about Living Hope, this journey with pancreatic cancer. And if you need hope, lots of places to go. You can certainly contact PanCan. That's the one we often recommend. That's 877-2-PANCAN, or PanCan. Pancreatic.org is another one, pancan.org. Lots of places you can go. So hope you'll come back as we stream live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.